Well, the first offering from the brand new Desautels Concert Series at the University of Manitoba is a rocking and rhyming take on a beloved masterwork. Stumble On, Schubert's Winterreise Reimagined, is a collaboration of poetry and rock music that explores one of the most famous song cycles ever written. The Desautels Faculty of Music's head of voice baritone Mel Braun will be one of the featured performers in Stumble On. He joins us in the Classic 107 studios to give us a bit of a preview. Nice to have you back.
Thank you. Yeah, lovely to be here.
So let's start with the genesis maybe for how to explore Schubert's Die Winterreise in a new 2025 friendly, maybe we can say, way.
Yeah, it's an iconic cycle, as you know. Most baritones and many tenors have taken it on and found different ways of doing it. Is it Philippe Sly, I think, who did things with an actual hurdy-gurdy?
That's right.
You know, these kinds of things.
Sure.
So I was always interested in the cycle and have for years been interested in how you can connect these classic works to our contemporary scene.
Mm-hmm.
Some years ago, my colleague Laura Lowen and I did a project in Neuberchtal with Paul and Marguerite, and it was pairing songs from Schwanengesang, the other Schubert cycle, one of the other Schubert cycles, with Gordon Lightfoot songs. The idea being that Gordon Lightfoot melodies are so infectious you don't mind hearing them again and again.
Right.
Same with Schubert.
Mm-hmm.
In Winterreise, which is about this wanderer on this life's journey, perhaps against his will, but on this life's journey, it just seemed to make so much sense to include other voices.
Right.
And so this has been about 4 years in the making, this
wow.
project. Yeah.
So incorporating all these different voices and change out Gordon Lightfoot with a great local band to add to that rock element that I alluded to earlier. What can you tell us about this band, Wonder, and maybe your connection to the band as well?
I've ended up being connected to a lot of the local bands because my son Micah is the songwriter, singer, guitarist for Wonder. But I also have nephews, the Pankratz Boys, one of whom's now an MLA and who are well known in the local scene.
Sure, played a long time in like Quincy and bands like that.
Other bands, yeah. And so I've ended up doing a lot of voice teaching for the local rock and roll scene over time. And so that's my connection there. And it turned out that of the last two albums that Wonders put out, a lot of the songs sort of reflect on the messiness of living. And that messiness of living connects very well to this journey that this poor guy, thrown out by his fiancée, having nowhere to go, traveling in the middle of winter and looking for answers. So that was an easy juxtaposition of texts.
So you have like a different sort of imagination of the sort of classic tortured artist struggle in some ways. You have something that feels it's still very raw, but a bit more refined when you think about the Schubert sound compared to something in like a rock sound where it's like, oh, my baby left me and I can't. That's maybe a bit more country, but like, you know what I mean? Like there's these two different approaches to the same sort of feeling of isolation and heartbrokenness, things of that nature that then combine. So that's two of the three elements that we find in Stumble On. And then the third is poetry straight up. What can you tell us about that, how that enters into the equation?
Into the equation. Well, I mean, the guy is essentially homeless and going through this difficult time. And so I scoured local poetry artists, and I came across Zanuck's Cowboy, the book by Hannah Green, which won the Governor General's Award for Poetry in 2023. And this is a story of someone battling addiction and all the elements that come through in that. And there were just so many things in that connected to what this guy was going through. Obsession, loss, looking back, how do I deal with this thing? Your brain going 600 miles an hour. So those were the things that attracted me, and it felt like a nice fit. So here, one thing I should just mention, I know the band was saying, well, how do we reconcile electric music with acoustic music?
Right.
So one of the things that I've been thinking about is that the acoustic portion, which is myself and Laura, is the guy living inside his own head on this journey. And then the electronic portions are the emotional explosion.
Right. There's the difference between experiencing these things by yourself,
Yes.
unamplified, and then having that experience amplified out to the world in whatever form that takes.
Yes.
And certainly that lends itself more to something that has a bit more, well, volume for one.
Yeah. That.
Because you can crank it up to 11, to borrow a phrase from our friends on Spinal Tap. So we talked about how all these things sort of come together, or alluded to it, without giving too much away, because obviously we want people to come and see the final product. On a pragmatic sort of a level, how do all of these things come together in this presentation, the first in the Desautels Concert Series for the University of Manitoba?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I based the flow of this thing on the way the texts related to each other. So I drew on the songs and drew on Hannah's poems. And one of the things you'll find out is that we start at the very end of the cycle and work back to the beginning. The whole idea there.
Yeah,
was,
why make that choice?
It's I wanted to. The very first song in Winterreise ends on the most tender note. He takes leave of his fiancée, who's tossed him out, but he does so in the most loving way. And to me, that connected to Schubert's journey. In the last few weeks of his life, he was desperately ill from complications of a long disease he'd had. And he kept going. He kept going for walks. He signed up for counterpoint lessons 3 weeks or so before he died.
Wow.
So he was stumbling on. Yeah, he was depressed. It's tough, but he was not stopping. So it was those elements that drew me into putting this together this way. You know.
So then there's an interesting sort of a dialogue that happens, not just in between the three sort of artistic elements in this show, but across the centuries as well. What does this sort of iteration of Die Winterreise stumble on? What does this piece have to add to these ongoing conversations or explorations of mental health that are it's certainly more robust than they were then in Schubert's time?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think I would leave that up to the audience to figure out for themselves. And as I mentioned to you earlier, I'm thinking of this whole concert as a sort of meditation on your own life, celebrating the good things, powering on through the things that aren't good, and then reaching out when the time is there.
That's maybe the key element there is that sort of reach out and giving voice to those things that maybe are uncomfortable or even difficult to say out loud, especially if you've never done it before. What do you think, maybe, I'm going to put this question back to you, even though you say you're going to leave these things to the audience. What do you hope then that people will take away from Stumble On that maybe they wouldn't take away if it was just Die Winterreise, if it was just you and Laura Lowen performing this song cycle as it would have been in the late 1820s?
I've always thought, certainly Schubert's music is timeless because it's melodic. And one of the things that is an ongoing conversation that I have with my son when he's as a songwriter, if it doesn't have melody, it's not going to linger. So that's one thing. I think the other element is just to see how those old forms, the recital form, and this, in its many iterations, has been very formal and on a stage, just two people doing their thing. How actually what's going on in there is completely contemporary in its application. That there's nothing museum-like about it. It's for real, and you can feel it. I mean, you probably sung some of those songs yourself, and when you're in the moment with that stuff, with that poetry that Wilhelm Müller wrote, and in those settings, which in Schubert's language now, he cut out all the earlier stuff. Because Schumann used to talk about the heavenly length of his melodies. It's not like that in this.
No.
This is super direct, really concentrated, and it's just like it comes straight from the gut. And so that to me is timeless.
So this is obviously a work that you have been familiar with
Yep.
yourself for a long time as well, both as a
Yep.
performer and as an instructor. What do you think you're going to take away from Stumble On as you continue to interact with Die Winterreise, having had these conversations and rehearsals and eventually a performance alongside the band Wonder and the words of Hannah Green from Xanax Cowboy?
Yeah, I think just gratefulness. I know that's funny. When I was a student at CNBC back in the day, the first 2 books I bought at the CNBC bookstore were Schubert songs and Bach arias. I don't know why, but those have become sort of the center of my life ever since.
You don't know why?
Now I know why. It was just gut instinct at that point, but that's what's become. And so I think, yeah, if we go just going back to your question there, you end up finding these things that work for you, that speak to you, and I'm just grateful to have the opportunity to share this, and hope to continue on this journey. You know, as an aging singer, there's always a time clock there somewhere, to still be able to express yourself through this music just makes me very happy, you know.
If the piece speaks to the audience, there is an encouragement on behalf of the performers to consider a donation
Yes.
to a local organization. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole homeless element, none of us has to, it's huge. It's all around us. So we're just asking that people consider a donation to St. Boniface Street Links.
Okay, wonderful organization doing great work on the east part of Winnipeg. We'll have more information about Stumble On at our website, classic107.com, and on the Classic 107 app. The concert taking place this Sunday at 2 o'clock in the Vocal Arts Room.
No.
It's at the...
It's in the Desautels Concert Hall.
It's in the Desautels Concert Hall. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Then it's easier to find, too, and I don't
Yep.
have to explain how to get anywhere. The Desautels Concert Hall on the stage. Another great way to enjoy the Desautels Concert Series. Mel Braun, thank you so much for joining us here in the Classic 107 studios and telling us more about Stumble On.
Of course.